Okay, welcome back Finxters. Now we are going to discuss the Beautiful Soup library. Now what is Beautiful Soup? Beautiful Soup is a Python package for parsing HTML and XML documents. It creates a parse tree that can be used to extract data from HTML. Now when I say parse tree, this is what I mean. If you remember, in the video where we learned about the HTML structure, we went through an example which looked something like this. Now let us try and view the HTML behind this page. Now as you can see, this page has a certain HTML which has a certain structure. This is exactly what I mean when I say your HTML page will have a tree structure. So how does this tree structure look? The root element in the document tree is the HTML, as you can see on the screen. Now HTML can have parents, children and siblings. So in this case, you can see that the parent of HTML is document, while its children are body and head, which further have children's. Now body and head can be considered as siblings. So I hope you get the idea behind the hierarchical structure. Now please remember that this is very important and you must keep this in mind because we are going to follow the hierarchical structure of HTML in order to extract elements from the HTML code. Now having said that, let us dive into some coding and then let's see how we can use the Beautiful Soup library. First and foremost, you must remember that Beautiful Soup is an external library. Therefore, you have to install it before you can use it. I have already installed it, so I need not install it. However, if you have not done so, you must install it before you can use it. Now, if you remember, in the previous example where we used the request library, we got an HTML code which was really messy. So what do I mean by that? Let me try and execute this code once again for you. And as you can see, this is the HTML code that was returned to us. Now this looks really messy and it's very difficult to get hold of this code. Now this is where Beautiful Soup comes in. So let's see how we can extract the HTML from a web page and then arrange it in a better structure. Let me clear out the output screen. Right click, clear all. Okay, so the first step is to import the necessary libraries. So the libraries that we need are the requests library as we used before, and then we have to import the Beautiful Soup library. So from BS4 import Beautiful Soup. Now BS4 is the abbreviation for Beautiful Soup version 4. So this is what we are going to use in order to extract the HTML from the web page. Let us create a user agent for ourselves. Now we have successfully created the user agent. Now the next step is to send a GET request to the server. So we learned that as well in our previous video. Therefore, let us quickly send the GET request. So let us create a variable response. And then let's use the requests library, which has the GET method. And now let's use the URL that we are going to work upon. So let's use this URL. And now we need to feed in the user agent. So headers equals headers. So that's the variable where I stored the user agent, which happens to be a dictionary. Now let's create another variable web page which stores the content of the response that we received. Okay, so this was a good recap to our previous video. Now it's time to store the web page contents using the Beautiful Soup library. In order to do that, we need to create a Beautiful Soup object. Let's name it soup. And now let's create the beautiful soup object using the beautiful soup class. I beg your pardon. This should come under this comment because we are following a strict structure so that we do not face any problem later while scraping the website. So let's follow the structure. So we are creating a beautiful soup object now. So let's create it here. And within the beautiful soup object, we have to pass the web page which holds the content of the URL that we are extracting. And now we need to use a parser. So you can use LXML or you can also use HTML parser. For this course, we are going to use the HTML parser. So let's define our HTML parser. And there we go. Now it's time to print the HTML code. To do that, all we need to do is print the soup object. Once we receive the web page or the response from the server, let's also define the status code for that so that we are sure that the response was successful. So response dot status code. Okay. So that's it. That's how simple it was. So let's go through the steps once again. First, we imported the necessary libraries, which happen to be the requests library and the beautiful soup library. Then we created our user agent. After creating the user agent, we used the get method to send the get request to the server. After that, we stored the contents of the response or the web page that was returned by the server in a variable named web page. Then we checked for the status code to check if the response was processed successfully. So do you remember what should be the code in this case if the request was processed successfully? Yes, you're right, it was 200. Then we created a beautiful soup object out of the web page content using the HTML parser. And finally, we are printing the object. Now there's a little more to this, but we'll move on to that a little later. Let's check the output. And there we go. We have successfully extracted the HTML from the web page. And we also have the proper status code that we wanted. Now let's compare this. So as you can see, we have a similar HTML code that we extracted from this URL and successfully printed it on our output screen. However, if you notice, this looks a little messy, or I would rather say that the indentations are not proper. If you look here, this is how the indentation looks like. Now this is quite pretty and has a better readability. So isn't there any way to get the output such that it is printed exactly this way, such that all the indentations and the entire structure of the HTML code is maintained? Of course, we do have such a method. Instead of simply printing the soup object, we need to use the prettify method along with it. And that will do the job for us. Now let's run this code again. Oops, I missed the brackets there. Now let's run it again. And there we go. As you can see, we have a clear structure or a clear tree structure that we wanted. So we have the parent tag, HTML, which consists of the child head. Now head again has a child title. Then we have the body, which is the child of HTML again. And the body tag has other children. Now if you notice, H1 and P are siblings. So using the prettify method, you can clearly visualize the tree structure and then use it accordingly to scrape your website. So I hope the Beautiful Soup library was clear to you. In the next video, we are going to see how we can navigate through this HTML code and extract the elements using the different tags. So if you have time, please join me in the next video.